Hello and welcome to another Bakhmut update, and this may be one of my last on this part of the front line, as the latest news suggests that the Ukrainians are doing a withdrawal of the city now that it is in immediate danger of a full encirclement. So since the last update earlier today, the Russian forces have taken the industrial area to the northeast of Bakhmut, as well as advanced a bit further. And in the midst of this advance, the Ukrainian forces blew up this bridge, as you can see in this image here. And if you look at my Telegram channel, you'll see the video where an explosion happens and the bridge falls. So the Ukrainian forces blew up this bridge, which could indicate that the Ukrainian forces have withdrawn completely from this eastern part and are now across the river line. At the same time, on the western part, the Ukrainian forces also blew up this bridge right here. And there's this image here. And essentially this means that there is no entrance or exit from Bakhmut from this part around Khomove, which means that all Ukrainian forces leaving or entering the city has to go through this single road, which goes down to Ivanivska and then up to Chesev Yar. As for the road right here, there is only 200 meters between the Russian forces and the Ukrainian position, which means that the only road in and out of Bakhmut that is somewhat safe is this one right here. And as such, we have actually seen a video, which is also on my Telegram channel, of some Ukrainian soldiers moving through this field. According to some comments on that, as it isn't an officially confirmed video. According to War Monitor on Twitter, not the pro-Ukrainian one, but the neutral one, he claims that this was taken yesterday and it was somewhere around here. While there were some replies that claimed that this was an old one from Berhivka, however, I do believe that it is this one, as it was soldiers with the green armband, which means it is the mobilized forces of Ukraine. And the difference between the green and yellow armbands is that the yellow one is the professional army, the well-trained and well-equipped forces, while the green ones are the mobilized forces with less equipment and less training. So the way the Ukrainians have fought the Battle of Bakhmut is that they had the yellow armbands in the north and the south, defending these flanks and allowing or preventing a encirclement of the city, while the green bands were fighting inside the city. That is because you need less training and less equipment to defend within the city, as you have many advantages, while on the sides of the city you would need a lot more skill, as it is open fields and smaller villages, all of these parts that makes it more difficult. This is also why it took the Wagner so long to actually fight through this, because they were fighting the well-equipped and well-trained soldiers of the Ukrainian armed forces. While within the city it has been slow advance because of the terrain issues. So essentially, green armbands leaving means that it is from Bakhmut, and they were walking on foot. Some were wounded, so they were helping them walk. And essentially, green armbands leaving means that it is soldiers leaving Bakhmut. So essentially, we are seeing a withdrawal from Bakhmut, both from the city as well as on the flanks, where the Ukrainian forces here, according to a different video of a Ukrainian soldier with a yellow armband, talking about how they are leaving Bakhmut. So a full-scale withdrawal from Bakhmut is happening across this singular road that they can walk through, and most likely also from the flanks. This could be from Ivanivska as well. However, if that happens, then it will happen after most forces have left Bakhmut city itself, or once the Russian forces manage to completely encircle the city. Either one, whichever happens first. Now I want to take a minute to look at the strategies that have been used throughout this war and compare the two commanders from both sides. So the Ukrainian forces, with their strategy of putting their well-equipped and well-trained forces in the northern and southern flanks, while keeping their green armbands in the city, who are less trained and less equipped, is actually a very good strategy by the Ukrainians. And that is because the terrain in a city scenario is one where, if we look at and zoom in, we can see In the residential areas, there's a lot of residential buildings, but also these high-rise buildings with a lot of apartments in them, apartment complexes, as well as universities, schools, hospitals, all of these things that allow for storage of ammunition, good positions to defend from, and most of the fighting that will happen within these areas will be small arms. There's also a lot of options for ambushes and all of these things that of course would be better with better coordination, training, and so on. However, it is not necessary to have good training to sit in a house and shoot at anyone who goes inside. So essentially, this less requirement of training compared to the flanks, where these are open fields, you need better precision, long range shooting battles, artillery, anti-tank guns, high mobility to be able to withdraw or advance whenever it's necessary, conducting counterattacks. All of these things require a lot of training, professionalism, coordination, and all of these things that comes with a lot of training, military training. So most likely we also see prisoners being more common, as they are the ones who have less training on the Wagner side. They are most likely the ones who are within the city. However, we did see some videos of a lot of casualties here to the north around Yakovlivka a couple of months back. So that means that Wagner most likely mixed everyone together so that there wasn't this separation that we see here in Bakhmut. However, this separation for the defenses of Bakhmut actually gave the Ukrainians a better position than if they mixed it similar to how the Wagner does it. So I think the Ukrainian commander here in the Bakhmut region seems to be very competent. And we've also heard a lot of requests to withdraw from Bakhmut from this commander, which indicates that he actually thinks for himself and is able to maneuver well when it comes to this war. So the Ukrainians have a competent commander here in the Bakhmut region. And at the same time, we have seen that Wagner seems to be the one that is showing most results on the Russian side as well. So this is essentially the Battle of Kings, where both sides have their most competent commanders on the side trying to achieve success. So we've essentially seen the Russian superiority in firepower, the determining factor in this battle, and this is why it's been taking so long. Also, something to notice is that since the fall of Soledar, the advances have significantly increased. So my theory on this is that essentially the Ukrainians have built defenses in Bakhmut and Soledar for a very long time. And with these defenses being built, the Ukrainians held these positions for a long time. So what made the Russians able to bypass these defenses is their capture of Yakovlivka, which gave them the ability to flank the Ukrainian defenses in Soledar. And after the collapse of Soledar, the Russians now had the opportunity to attack these other villages next to Soledar, who are way less protected. They hadn't built fortifications here similar to what they've done in Soledar, which then allowed them to advance in this area. However, while the fighting was ongoing in Soledar, they were building defenses here. So they weren't as well defended, but they still had some defenses in these areas. So it still took a long time for the Russians. But after these places, these areas, which fell shortly after Soledar, about a month after, then we saw further advances, and these were much quicker. And that is because while these defenses held for about a month to build up defenses is not a lot. So the defenses built in Berhivka and Yahidne were much less fortified compared to the first ones. And then we can assume that the Ukrainians would use their best soldiers first in these defenses, as these were the most fortified positions. So when you have a well-fortified position, you would need to use your best soldiers to defend it. So the casualties that the Ukrainians were taking at the start were the most trained and best equipped soldiers. And then as time passes on, the defenses became less sustainable and the soldiers became lower quality with lower quality equipment. But we also have to take into account that the ones who survived, the soldiers who survived these battles, They will essentially be more experienced and fight better after their battles rather than before because of their experience, which is very valuable. So it was becoming easier for the Wagner PMC as they advanced further and further, while it became more difficult for the Ukrainians as they were losing important equipment that wasn't being replaced at a fast enough rate. So essentially, we are at the end game of Bakhmut. There's not going to be many more days. Prigozhin himself made a video. Prigozhin, if you don't know, is leader of Wagner PMC. And essentially, he says that there's 1 or 2 days left for Bakhmut. And so far, I'll be hard-pressed to find any video where he says something that is untrue. His previous estimate of Bakhmut was that it would fall before April. And we can see now it's the 3rd of March. So we still have a month left. And there is news of a Ukrainian withdrawal. With that, we can say that he was accurate in that. So let's see if he's accurate with this as well. But that is going to be all for this update. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy my format. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.